reminder, tomorrow night on ABC, it'll begin with new episodes of America's Funniest Home Videos. Then the new America's Funniest People. Clint Eastwood's in neither of those. Lois and Clark. The New Adventures of Superman, perhaps. But no, that last one, folks, has got to be starring Clint Eastwood. He is a Heartbreak Ridge kind of guy.
That's an old Marine movie, that one.
Yeah. He's got that old Marine look.
Michigan coming on strong. You know, at the last couple games of the season, they might have been the best team in the Big Ten, or at least close to it. They really came on strong at the end.
Can't be taking anything away from those badges.
Oh, hey, can't do that. Boston College, Tom Coughlin did a great job there this year. Barry Alvarez beating my Bruins soundly. Great win by Coach Holtz. Nobody does any better job in bowl games than the old Coach Holtz. Look at this one. They're hanging in there tough.
By time, I'll take the 17.5.
What are you talking about?
No, I don't know. Third down now. The ball is at the 5-yard line. Here it is, 28-7. And the Gators hungry for more.
Up by 21, 3rd and 1. It's a 2-down for first down call. Tailback lined up a little bit deeper. See this gap right here? If he gets up tighter, then they throw it. If he's back deeper, they normally run it.
Houston in motion. Eric Rhett. 1st and goal.
There's another helmet popping off. People hitting people. That's Mike Collins, set a school record for 29 passes defensed. Need the helmet to do that. Nice hole. Good isolation. Fundamental play. Fullback leading through. It's Chris Bilkey, number 39. Excellent blocker lead. Good turnout block by Odom. Good fullback block there by Bilkey. First down, goal to go.
The I formation. Eric Rhett will try to get his 3rd, and he stopped short. That was Richardson. Dean getting the play call from Steve Spurrier, who is the offensive coordinator as well as the head coach. Second and goal. Rhett is behind Bilkey. Houston. And it's Rhett again, slashing, diving, reaching, has it. His 3rd touchdown of the game. West Virginia came in here having allowed only 8 rushing touchdowns all season, and Eric Rhett has 3 himself tonight.
Boy, and I'll tell you, he earned this one, showing his character. Great reach and get the ball in the end zone. His body was not going to get in there. They toss it to him deep so he can get the ball seated. He gets a kick-out block here by Bilkey, leading right there. Then he watch him reach. Now, right now, he knows he's going down. Look at, oh, nice. Breaks that plane. That's all he has to do. Like those kind of football players. They inspire everybody. Coaching staff, school, alumni, athletic.
Davis. And the Gators, losers here 2 years ago, are well on their way to the title in this year's Sugar Bowl. When the Gators look back on this season, they will remember this timeout as Eric Zeier fired one in. They put the 5 back on because timeout had been called legally. Georgia didn't score the touchdown. And then a penalty flag was called on the Gators in the end zone against Lott, and it gave Zeier one last crack. But the incompletion. And Florida stayed on track for the Eastern Division title of the SEC. They beat Alabama in the championship game in Birmingham. And here they are leading West Virginia 35-7. And the athletic director saying that Steve Spurrier is going to be a force to be reckoned with for a lot of years over there in Gainesville. This is Vanderpool. Vanderpool slammed short of the 20-yard line. And down we go to Jackaroo. Jack.
Well, Brent, it's no surprise, but it's a surprise to me to see just how listless West Virginia has become with these unanswered points. You look behind me, there's no spirit at all. They're the most downtrodden group of players that I've ever seen, and one of the things that I think might account for it are these huge Diamond Vision screens. Not only do they see the scores in person down in the field, but then you see all their eyes look up and see it again. It's like getting hit twice in the same play.
That would make the score, Jack, 70-14.
Yeah.
1st and 10. Jake Kelchner will try to light a fire. It's a flickering flame for the unbeaten Mountaineers. Instead of high, this one's low on the bounce to Baker.
You know, since they took him out and he's come back in, you know, he set that whole time. He really has not been sharp at all. He was 0 for 4 in the last series, 0 for 5 as so far in this half. And remember, initially he was right on the money.
Second and 10. Knowing the Mountaineers must pass, the Gators defensive lineman able to tee off, complete to Mike Baker, and a 1st down, West Virginia.
This is not the style of football they like to play, but now they're forced to play this kind of football, and they have people that can make big plays, and they've come back a few times this year, and last year they came back and overcame a huge lead by Maryland. But boy, I tell you, that's a lot of points right now.
And folks, the Gators ain't Maryland.
No,
hey, you know, Dick, up at Berwick, you know that Jake Kelchner was a tight end in junior high school? And then one day, Coach Curry saw Jake throw a ball 55 yards playing catch. He was a quarterback the next day and has been ever since. 1st and 10. Kelchner on the run, away from trouble, short of the 30-yard line.
You must be working for the Berwick Chamber of Commerce today, Howard.
Johnny Church.
No, but they have done a good job. You know, Notre Dame's freshman quarterback.
Now, speaking of Notre Dame, you know, Kelchner went there from Berwick, and Ron Powlus.
He just could not fit in at Notre Dame. You know that? Powlus is there. They both broke collarbones, too.
That's right. Let's go to Jackaroo. Jack?
Well, Brent, you know, Kelchner was, well, we'll tell you the story after this play.
2nd down and 11. Signaling to his outside wide man. Kennedy's over there. Kelchner hands to Walker. Walker with a penalty flag. Walker hit by Lawrence Wright.
William Gaines got good penetration in there, almost got in the point of exchange between the quarterback and the running back. William Gaines showing very good quickness at the defensive right tackle spot, coming off on the ball. You can see why they nickname him Big Nasty.
Third and short. That's Ryan moving to the right side of the formation. Walker for the 1st down. Jack.
Well, Brent, when Jake Kelchner was asked not to return to the University of Notre Dame, an individual called Coach Don Nehlen, and he said, I know an individual that could fit into your program. He's a good kid. He's made a few mistakes, but I think if he's given a chance, he could become an outstanding quarterback and an outstanding individual. Nehlen listened, and then he called Jake Kelchner. He offered him a scholarship. You know who the individual was?
Lou Holtz.
You got it.
Jack, I didn't mean to steal your punchline. I apologize. Okay.
Don't let it happen again.
Okay. 1st and 10, and penalty flags come flying here.
This is they were lining up in that what they called a big shadow defense when they put 4 linemen down, and then they put a linebacker down in a 3-point stance as well. They have also, as we said in the 1st half, put the 5th defensive lineman in there, but it just shook the offensive line up enough that they moved.
When I left Amelia Island on Monday, I picked up the Florida Times-Union in Jacksonville, and I knew the Gators meant business. The headline, Gators to tone down partying. Bourbon Street, mention it. All that is raucous and rowdy, they did it 2 years ago, but not this time. This is a Gator team that came in here with a purpose, and so far they are making good on that promise.
You know, and I think Spurrier did a good job of keeping him loose. The other day, they were in the goal line area running plays. The offense came out of the huddle against the defense. He jumped in Eric Rett's position, threw Eric out of the huddle, and they tossed him the ball. Of course, they didn't tackle the coach, and he ran into the end zone. He did the big high step. I said, where'd you get that step? He said, I was just imitating Eric Rett. And really, all the guys sort of laughed, and it just sort of kept him in the proper frame of mind. It didn't allow him to get too tight.
You know, there's no reason why Spurrier shouldn't become a great bowl coach. When you think of what he can do with that extra time off, Dick, and the way he sets up an offense, Kelchner slips away, goes down the middle of the line, and it's incomplete. And that was Larry Kennedy who got a hand on the ball.
David
Kelchner
Barnard
did a good job, though, at getting away, didn't he?
Who did, and David Barnard did a good job of putting that pressure coming in from the defensive tackle position. Boy, it takes a man to block that fella. And Kennedy really is probably their most solid, consistent defensive back. When you talk to Ron Zook about him, he says he's always there. He's not spectacular. He just plays well every week. But Kelchner was under a lot of pressure that time.
Well, here's a 3rd down and 5. Kelchner fires the middle, incomplete. Ball was jarred loose, and Kennedy was in on that play along with Hanks. The Gators have been hitting like that since midway through the 1st quarter. The message has been delivered.
You know, you can hit like that when you're a good athlete and you can run quickly. You know, a slow guy has a hard time accelerating in that sort of space and really nailing you. But a guy that's quick, can bend his knees and strike, can hit like that.
Let's go back on the Gator season, and let's not forget Auburn. Unbeaten but ineligible because they are on probation. And Auburn pulled one out on the Gators in Auburn, Alabama. That was a late field goal, as I recall. 38-35. Perhaps I'll have to check to make sure. The punt by Sauerbrunn at the 19, and Palmer slips the first tackle, but not the second. And there'll be a little pushing and shoving down there at the 15-yard line. Now here are the standings, and you can see at the bottom, Auburn, unbeaten, beat the Gators with a classic ending in Auburn. The only other Florida loss this year was to Florida State, and that was in Gainesville, and that's the only game that Steve Spurrier has lost in the Swamp since he became the head coach 4 years ago. This is a remarkable turnaround of a program over in Gainesville, and it is quality. A lot of youngsters on this team. They're going to be a force to be reckoned with. I would dare say that a lot of the preseason polls are going to mention the Gators next year as one of those candidates for a national title. That's how much talent comes back. Eric Rett will be gone. He will be a big man they're going to have to replace as he slams out to the 22-yard line. Eric Rett will move on to the NFL, and if he makes a roster, who knows? Maybe we'll see him in a Monday nighter sometime next year. We come up here, Dick, what do you think now? Eagles, Niners?
Well, you're going to have to go with the 49ers. They're still playing for a home field advantage. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's right. And the Eagles have played well and played hard, but I think the 49ers will play the same way.
Well, I think the winner of the Giants and the Cowboys would maintain it. I'm not even sure about we'll check with George Hill on the home field.
They're going to throw here.
2nd down, and it's Willie Jackson. Slips, but he's out of bounds. Out of bounds at the 40-yard line.
See, they came up with the 2 tight ends and 2 wide outs. They saw the coverage. They came in with an 8-man front. They were going to blitz Terry Dean audible to the out pattern. He came in here prior to that pass with 17 completions and 18 attempts, 203 yards, 1 touchdown. By far his sharpest ball game. Doing a nice job.
Dick, let me complete that about the home field. The winner of the Giants-Dallas game, George Hill tells me, and
okay,
we're right, they get the home field all the way. The 49ers already have it. They have a bye. The NFC Central is the team that will play the first week, the first round of the playoffs. So nothing can change with the Monday night. Rett at the 40-yard line.
Really a nice job by Barry Hawkins, a defensive tackle on the offensive center. They jumped into a 30 defense. They've been playing a lot of even defense with nobody on the center. He did a real good job of it, just coming off on the ball and getting into that backfield. Here he is, number 99. He'll just take on the center and work and get penetration into the backfield. See, See him jump to the three-man line defense. Does a nice job of stuffing the center coming off on a zone block. And that was Gannett Crouch, number 50. He expected more help from his left guard when he released him and didn't get it.
Let's go down to Jack. Jack?
Ray, you talked about the last time the Florida Gators were here in New Orleans and they stayed off of Bourbon Street in 1993. This time here, well, let me tell you something else that Coach Steve Spurrier did. He dissected the way they approached that Sugar Bowl. And he said one of the mistakes we made is not getting here in the Superdome early enough to practice. In fact, they only had an hour walkthrough the day before the game when they played here the last time. So this time, every single day, with exception of one where they practiced in Tulane, they practiced on the artificial turf. And here's one reason why. They played no games on artificial turf until they played in the SEC Championship this year at Legion Field in Birmingham, Alabama.
Steve Perkins goes off the field under his own power, knowing help, no help. Probably a slight sprained ankle. That's what they were working on. He's been a factor in there too, regardless of the score. He's made some plays.
Eric Rett comes in motion on 2nd and 10. And Terry Dean rolling right, slips it to Willie. And he's out of bounds at about the 45-yard line. Aaron Beasley there with coverage, and Beasley's had his hands full, hasn't he?
Oh, yeah, and you know, they keep doing a good job of trying to mix the coverage, but it really doesn't matter because these kids are really totally aware of what they're supposed to do with the ball, regardless of the coverage.
Well, with his formation and so many talented wide receivers, he's eventually going to get somebody one-on-one.
And he knows
and he says, I can beat you with this.
Right. And plus, the important thing is he knows where to go right now. It doesn't take him long to decide to get there. Good definition of purpose.
Beasley's over here on Willett. So now Rhett puts pressure on the other side. Dean comes, throws to the slot man, and Hill can't get a hand on it, but he had him one-on-one that time, and that was Collins who drew the coverage on Hill.
Terry Dean got decked there by Keith Morris back there. See, now they ran the back in motion again away, pulling the coverage that way, forcing a one-on-one situation over toward the slot. It was there, they just threw it incomplete.
Well, you watch Florida, and we saw Alabama a bit on television, and you are really puzzled about the performance by Tennessee against Penn State today.
Well, the last time we saw Penn State play, they played awfully well. Remember, against Illinois, they ran the ball just tremendous. And evidently today, they just put it all together because you and I both know that Tennessee, when we saw them, was an excellent football team.
Edge wants it. Vanderpool bluffs the fair catch. The ball will come out of the 20. Really, Coach, I didn't want to put it back in the end zone. I thought I could drop it inside the 10.
I'm used to punting against the wind. Turn up the air conditioners.
Well, there are some stunned folks over there on the West Virginia side.
They are stunned. It just took all the sap out of them. They came out here with such intensity and enthusiasm and playing hard. The defensive line coming off, offensive line coming off, but they really lost it right now.
And I will never forget that moment. And we'll get an opportunity in the fourth quarter to show it to you again of Monty Grove, number 10, when he unloaded. I don't think this football game has ever been the same since that two-play sequence. Kelchner with time looks back and he overthrows his receiver. That was Jones who had slipped out the backfield.
He's saying to himself, how could I throw that incomplete? Look at it.
Dick, will he get a look in the NFL?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. There were scouts here during the week watching him, and I talked to Billy Kuharich, the personnel director at New Orleans Saints, and he says definitely he's an NFL prospect. And I believe he is, especially when we saw him here in the first quarter. He was really sharp and looked good, and he looked very good on the practice field. When we saw him before, he was banged up, and it was tough to evaluate.
And this is Walker, and he won't go. He will not get the corner. That was Monty Grove, number 10.
He's the tempo setter.
You know what's interesting about Monty Grove? The Gators weren't even sure that they were going to have him this year. He had to apply for that redshirt year, and he was granted a 5th season. Came back, and he filled a big spot for them this year.
From the right side of your screen, number 10 staying in contained position, pop. See what he does? He does a nice job of bending his knees, getting his pads down, and lifting and hitting up through the target.
On 3rd and 12, Kelchner slips it out to his fullback, who is down at the 19 and short of the first down. West Virginia must punt again, as Groh and Kennedy were there defensively. Jack Arute.
Brent, you might be wondering why Mike Baker, the wide receiver for the Mountaineers, is not out during this series. Well, he's over here on the sidelines, and the report is that he is suffering from severe stomach cramps. He's been out, and he's got the blanket covering him up. The medicos are tending to him, but it's going to be a long night for Baker now. Who knows if he'll get back in?
Yeah, I'm not sure, Jack, he was the same after that punt return back in the first half when he was shaken up over on that far side. As Sauerbrunn sends one to Palmer on the run at the 42-yard line. And Palmer slips the first tackle, but not the second, and he is down at the 37-yard line. Well, now it is up to junior Terry Dean, who says he'll be back next year. The young man out of Collier High School in Naples, Florida. Another outstanding student down in that class at Naples. He was 2nd in his graduating class. And at Florida, he's got about a 3.75 grade point average. His father, Frank, who is here tonight, played football at Jacksonville, Alabama State. And, of course, last year he backed up Shane Matthews, shared the duties this year with Danny Werfel. Werfel is injured. Dean was the starter and the finisher against Alabama. He's done a job here, as Eric Redu has scored 3 touchdowns for the Gators. Runs to the 45-yard line, and John Browning, one of the second-teamers of the Mountaineers, get a little playing time.
That's that same counter toss where they toss it and comes back off tackle, going the opposite way, freezes the linebackers, fullback gets in good position, offensive line coming up there, 7-8 yard gain.
You know, one of the players we haven't talked